I'm glad you tuned in. So for today's Camp Push, Picking Up Steam at Home challenge, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about things like these. These are called Cairns, and it's spelled like this, C-A-I-R-N-S, but it's pronounced like the person's name, Carin. Now, cairns are traditionally used as trail markers, particularly in places where it's hard to necessarily see the trail. Often you see them on top of rocky mountaintops or in deserts. Other places where they have trees or lots of lush vegetation, the trail is either easy to spot like this, or the trail is marked with these things called blazes, these paint marks on trees. Now, cairns can be very useful, and cairns can kind of be fun to build. So I wanted to talk to you all about when's the right time to build a cairn and when's not. I've recently seen on Pinterest and on the internet lots of pictures of people making beautiful, beautiful decorative cairns. And in your own place, that's a fine thing to do, or someplace where there isn't necessarily a trail. But it's important to remember that if cairns are already existing, you should not disturb them because people depend on them to find their way. So a good example of a place where you should not disturb a cairn would be in some place like a national park. Now, national parks use these so that hikers can find their way to the next place. And there are different types of cairns around the world. This one is one that's specifically used in Acadia National Park. It's called a P.U.S.H cairn, and it is named for the first explorer of the area. Now, at my house, I have built a cairn. It looks like this. All right, it's not as beautiful as our artistic or decorative ones, but it's one that we use to help find our way through our woods. We have this marked because it's usually just the two of us walking on the trails, and occasionally if we do have guests, we want to have a visual reminder so people know where the best place is to go through so that they don't get stuck in, I don't know, a place where there's maybe a rabbit hole or something like that. Now, it's important not to disturb cairns in national parks for a couple of different reasons, and it's important not to build your own in other places for other reasons. So in national parks, we don't want to build cairns just for fun because it might lead someone off on a trail that doesn't actually exist. It's also important not to disturb the already existing cairns because people depend on those. In other places, you have to be cautious about building cairns because often they're built in places where disturbing the rocks might change the erosion patterns, and we certainly don't want to cause any more harm to the land than is necessary. But I want to encourage you this week to try your hand at building cairns, but I want to remind you to do it in a place where you know that you're not going to be disturbing wildlife, you're not going to be disturbing the land, and you're not going to be confusing hikers who might get lost from their trail. So a great place to do this, much like I've built a cairn in my backyard, find a place where maybe you want to build something that's beautiful or marks a special spot, and try your hand at building cairns. It's a good idea to think about theories of architecture and engineering. You maybe want to start with a wider base and then get smaller and smaller as you go. But if you want to try a specific style, kind of like the P.U.S.H cairns, by all means, go ahead and do that. All right, don't forget, I'd love to hear what you discovered or see what you create. You can always tweet me or email me, and I'd love to carry on this conversation about cairns.